clue you in. I am not in danger, Skylar. I am the danger. A guy opens his door and gets shot, and you think that of me? No. I am the one who knocks.
What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. So February's been sort of dry in terms of like covering stuff, so I thought I might as well do a video where I talk about my top 10 favorite TV shows of all time. So now, this won't be what I think is the best TV shows of all time. Obviously, this list will be consisted of some of the best TV shows of all time, but this is sort of like my favorite, which ones I enjoy watching the most. If I was doing a best TV shows list, maybe some things would be in a couple of different places in terms of like the order. This is a combination of what I think are some of the best shows on television, while also adding in some of my favorite ones that maybe aren't, that, wouldn't be on a traditional best TV shows of all time list. I want to do this type of video because, TV shows are sort of like one of the main things on my channel right now. So I thought, doing a list where I talk about, my favorite shows, will let you guys know like what kind of taste I have, what I look for in a TV show. Every show that I will talk about in this video has at least one 5 out of 5 or 10 out of 10 season, in my opinion. There are some great shows out there that I just don't think have like a perfect season, so I didn't add them to my list. I'm going to do honorable mentions at the end right before my number 1. But let's just take a look at my list. We're going to start at 10, go down to 1. If you guys enjoy this type of video, please make sure to like it. Please subscribe if you're new. But let's start at number 10. So coming at number 10, I have Cobra Kai. And now I'm pretty surprised that Cobra Kai made this list. There is plenty of moments in here where the show is just cringe, it's cheesy, just flat out bad sometimes in terms of acting and writing. But I think the highs of Cobra Kai are some of the best highs you can get from a television if you really let yourself, be consumed by what you're watching. Karate Kid was something that was sort of, before my time. I grew up sort of like in the early 2000s, born in the 90s. Karate Kid was more like an 80s, trilogy of movies. Well, there's 4, well, technically 5, right? And so I had to binge those movies before Cobra Kai. And what I love about Cobra Kai is that it perfectly blends together paying homage to those movies, bringing back returning characters, and having the spotlight being on Johnny Lawrence, on Daniel LaRusso, and that relationship. And that's sort of like the main core of what we're watching it for, to see these two guys grown up and they're still bickering together, right? But what it does so well is that it introduces new characters, and it's perfectly blended into the story with Johnny Lawrence and Daniel LaRusso. There's, a perfect amount of time focusing on LaRusso and Lawrence. But then, we have new characters like Miguel, Hawk, Tori. They became fan favorites in a way. And there are so many franchises out there where it just tries too hard to introduce the kid characters. And it's like we have a focus on the kid characters, but we don't focus on what we're really here for, which is, the returning characters. And I think this show does a great job of having that main focus being on the core of LaRusso and Lawrence's relationship, along with John Kreese, but then also introducing these new kid characters who became, they have actual good stories and they're blended well into the main thing. And so, Cobra Kai is great. I think there are a couple of 5 out of 5 seasons in here. The first 3 seasons, I got so hyped. The fight scenes were so much fun. Johnny Lawrence was a great character. It actually blew me away by how much, I not resonated with Johnny Lawrence, but how much I adored that character. And, to see his character grow through the last 4 seasons is great. I think it was so good. And I love how each episode's only 20 minutes. And I would just get so hyped for these shows. I get so excited, binge the whole thing. So I'm fine with having Cobra Kai here at number 10. Maybe a couple other things could have filled in this spot, but for me personally, I do like Cobra Kai a lot, and I'm fine with it being here. All right, so coming in number 9 now, I have The Mandalorian.
There must be some mistake. I can get you more credits.
I can bring you in warm, or I can bring you in cold.
So as you guys may know, I'm a huge Star Wars fan. I love Star Wars, probably my favorite franchise lore to really delve into. And I have to say, I think The Mandalorian is the best piece of Star Wars content to come from the Disney era out of everything so far. I think it's better than the sequel trilogy. I like it better than Rogue One. The Clone Wars. I love the Clone Wars. There are some dud episodes. But yeah, I think The Mandalorian is incredible. What Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau have done with this show and this character, Grogu, like Baby Yoda, it's great. It feels like Star Wars. It has like that Return of the Jedi sort of feel to it the first season. The second season is great as well, where he has to try to bring Grogu to a Jedi. We see Luke at the end. We have all these different cameos that I really enjoy. I think it plays into the story well, plays into Dave Filoni's own universe that he created, sort of. And there's not much else to say about it. If you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. Everyone I talk to I know loves The Mandalorian. Din Djarin's a great character. I love hearing about all the Mandalorian lore, finding out more about Baby Grogu and everything that's going to go on with him. Book of Boba Fett sort of incorporated like a Mandalorian 2.5. I think the Book of Boba Fett's not in the same tier as the Mandalorian. I think those first 2 seasons were pretty close to perfect. I'd say the second season's definitely 5 out of 5. First one's probably 5 out of 5 too for me. So that's pretty much it. Let's keep going. So for this list, I wanted to keep off some subcategories of shows. Like I didn't want to include comedy shows, or else like It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia could have definitely been on this list. That's probably my favorite comedic show. I love The Office. Some animated shows I didn't incorporate. So like Batman the Animated Series, I grew up watching that. I love that series. But I didn't want to include it in this list for some reason. But coming at number 8, I have the only animated show on this list, and that's Rick and Morty. And I put Rick and Morty in a different category than some of the other animated shows, or at least the adult ones, like Family Guy, The Simpsons, South Park, Futurama, American Dad. I think Rick and Morty is in a different category from those shows. When I first saw Rick and Morty, I was in sort of, I don't want to say darker period of my life, but at a time in my life where Rick and Morty really brung me up. It really opened up my eyes to a lot of things. I mean, it was so funny. Right? We're dealing with like different Ricks, different Mortys, multiverses. Every episode you didn't know what was going to happen. Every episode was memorable. Every episode was insanely funny. There were some, maybe, I wouldn't even call it dud episodes, but there were maybe some episodes that weren't on the same tier as some others. But Rick and Morty is a fantastic show. I love the theories that people talk about. Like maybe Rick is a grown-up Morty. The relationship between them two is really good. And it gets deep. The show does something that other shows don't, and it actually talks about like existential dread. They make fun of all this stuff that maybe a lot of us fear, and that's just what I love about it. It's funny, it's also serious at times, has some great storylines, great music. They make up their own songs that I actually listen to in car rides by myself. It just has so much to it. I love Rick and Morty. I think it deserves a place on this list, and I'm fine with it being the only animated show that makes it on here. Now coming at number 7, I have True Detective Season 1.
World needs bad men. We keep the other bad men from the door.
I've only seen the first season of this show. I do plan on watching Season 2 and Season 3, but I heard that they weren't on like the same tier as Season 1. But honestly, if someone asked me like, what is the best season of television? I usually say True Detective Season 1, I think is the most complete and perfect season of any television show. It stars Woody Harrelson, stars Matthew McConaughey. There are 2 detectives that are hunting down a serial killer. Your basic sort of, detective police sort of show. But there's so much more to it. The serial killer he targets certain women, he kills them in certain ways. Matthew McConaughey is a character that is so, he'd be a great character study. It sort of goes back and forth between him as an older man and him a little bit younger. As we see in his future self, he has a totally, different perspective on life. He talks about how time is like a flat circle, and like we're born into like the same life. He gets really deep and weird, and I love that sort of thing. But Woody Harrelson's more of like a grounded character. He's more intertwined with like real life and society and doing what you're supposed to do. And their relationship together is definitely one of the main highlights of the show. How they play off each other, how they interact, how they sort of have different methods for going about doing detective work. And it's just a great show. Unraveling the whole mystery. Like I said, the relationship between those two and how it sort of comes like this climactic thing. It's really great. I don't want to spoil it if you haven't seen it already. But definitely I'd say my favorite season of any show. It's just not higher because these other shows that I'm going to talk about have, perfect seasons. They have more than one. So let's just go into the next one. Coming in now at number 6, I have Entourage. Now, Entourage is one of those shows that was so much fun. It would literally pump adrenaline into my veins whenever I watched it. Another show that was like less than 30 minutes long, but it was just jam-packed with so much goodness. It's known a lot for its amount of cameos that it has. It has cameos like celebrities, sports, athletes. It's about a group of guys who live in, I think, Hollywood, I think is what it is. And the main guy, Vince, he's an actor. So one of the main highlights of the show is watching Vince try to land movie deals. And there's a bunch of cool cameos, like he talks to James Cameron. He gets a movie with all these different sort of people. I'm a huge movie fan, so seeing, directors, actors, that's always fun. Relationship between these guys is also really cool. Sort of reminds me of like my own friend group. They sort of like bust each other's balls, but they also have each other's back. And there's a bunch of drama that comes from that. One guy's name is literally Johnny Drama. He's probably like one of the best characters on the show. But like I said, like again, I watched this show at a time where like my confidence level like wasn't that high. But when you watch this show, at least for me, like an episode ends and I'd be like, okay, I'm ready to go party. I'm ready to go out. I'm ready to go do something. It would just like pump confidence into me. And that's just what I love about the show. It just gave me that feeling whenever I watched it. It gave me like this excitement, like an escape from the world. You could just watch these guys be entertained. It was funny, but also serious at times. It was just a great show. I miss watching it. I love the opening theme, everything about it, the characters. It's just something I love. It's not going to be for everyone. But if you're someone who sort of wants something that's gonna, I don't know, it just gave me like this sense of adrenaline that I look for in shows at times, and I haven't really found anything else that gave me that feeling like Entourage does. So that's why it's number 6 on this list. And now coming in number 5, I have Stranger Things. So there would have been a time where Stranger Things may have been one of my top 3 shows of all time. I thought it was really that good. But now, as the delay has been a little bit longer for season 4, for some reason, my perception of those seasons sort of diminished throughout time. Like I always forget how good those first 2 seasons were. But when I go back and I watch old clips, I remember like how good this show really was. I still stand by the fact that I do think it's Netflix's best show to date. It's set in the 80s. I love that 80s vibe. It has like the Steven Spielberg poltergeist sort of vibe to it. In that first season, as we know, Will goes missing. His mother believes that he's still alive out there, like in some other dimension. So she's trying to contact him. It was so much fun. It was different. Like I said, had that 80s aesthetic, that vibe. And, and then the other kids are trying to find him. They run into 11. 11 has her whole story behind her, how she uses powers all of a sudden. It was just so much fun. It was, shocking at times, some of the big reveals. Season 2 was also fun. We were introduced to some new characters that played a big part. Seeing these little kids sort of grow up throughout the show was nice to see. I'm sure in this new season and in the final one, they're going to be so old now, it's going to be sort of like nice, I guess, to look back on it. Season 3 was good, though. I think definitely season 1 and season 2 were perfect seasons. Season 3 maybe is like a 4 or 4.5 out of 5. We'll see what's in store for season 4. But if season 4 can get itself back on track and to be as good as those first 2 seasons, this could bump up on this list easily. I probably have to rewatch it to really remember like how good it was. But for right now, it's it made my top 5 and I'm fine with that. So now coming in number 4, I have The Wire. Now, The Wire is definitely one of the best shows of all time. If I was doing a best shows of all time, The Wire would probably be number 2, maybe number 1, because I think it has the most to say out of any of these shows. Talking about importance, talking about what's actually going on in the outside world, The Wire is probably the one that you want to watch if you want something like that. My only problems with The Wire is that there's one season that I actually don't like. Season 2, I just flat out didn't like it. I actually thought it was bad. We focus on these construction workers. We stray away from the police force that was so intriguing in that first season. I feel like we strayed away from those characters and focused on some other characters I didn't really care about in season 2. That being said, season 3 was definitely one of the best seasons I've ever seen. With Stryker, played by Idris Elba. He was fantastic. Season 4, perfect season. We focus on the schools, what they did with the schools and those characters and the message they were saying about how these kids, even if they wanted to get out of the slums or the projects, they really couldn't. There was nowhere for them to go. Like the gang life is what the system tailored for them. And that's what I'm saying by it has so much to say. It talks about that sort of life, talks about the police life as well. Has a great balance to both. And then season 5 started out a little bit slow, but I think by the end with the newspaper stuff, it really, put a nice exclamation point on the whole show. So The Wire, it's definitely, I loved it. A little bit slow at times, but I also miss that slow vibe sometimes. Like, I don't know why. Like, maybe at the time when I'm watching it, I sort of thought to myself, like, it's a little bit boring, a little bit slow. But now that it's all over, I do have some sort of urge to go back and watch it and maybe appreciate it a little bit more. But for right now, it's top 4. I'm fine with it. These next 3 shows are definitely my favorite of all time. So let's talk about it. So these next 3, I've definitely circled between number 1 for all of them. But for right now, number 3, I have the Game of Thrones. There was definitely a time where Game of Thrones was my number 1 favorite show of all time. Now, that was maybe around season 4 or season 5 where it was up there. With season 7 and 8, it did plummet down to like number 3. they were just not on the same tier as those first couple of seasons. And we all know why, right? They're based off the books. I've read the first 2 books. I'm in the middle of reading the third. But the books stop at, I think, the 5th or 6th book, right? So the show had the books for 5 seasons, but then they didn't have any more books to go off of, so they had to create their own story. Obviously, George R.R. Martin played into this, and he gave them tips on like how he wanted to end it, and they were able to tell the story. I guess they want to tell his story, just not as completely. And so that's why we see a dip in season 6, 7, and 8. It's because that's like their own material, and they're not going off of the books, right? Because there weren't any books. But season 4 is definitely like one of my favorite seasons of television of all time. Season 3 was great. Season 2, season 1. There's plenty of perfect seasons in this show. I actually have the whole Steelbook, 4K Steelbook collection of Game of Thrones, and this is one of my favorite sets. I actually haven't delved into these yet because I do want to rewatch the show. But I mean, you're talking about the Starks. The Starks have such a great lore behind them. You know, Jon Snow, everything with him, the shocks we get to see in season 7, just phenomenal character. Daenerys Targaryen. You have like the Baratheons. You talk about the Lannisters. There's so many characters with so much to say, so many different layers to everyone. I could literally talk about Game of Thrones all day. I mean, the characters are amazing. So even that aside, there's this like epicness with the battles, with dragons, the Return of the Dragons, the claim for the throne, the whole Game of Thrones concept. It's amazing, and it looks great. It feels great. The production design, the vibe, it feels medieval. I love that, you know, medieval lore sort of feel, and the show just did it so well. I'm so upset that it does. Season 8 was bad. It was okay. Like I don't hate on it as much as some other people, but when I look back on it and I rewatch some clips, and it's just, I'm like, this is so dumb. Like, who wrote this? You could tell that maybe the writers didn't really care about this last season. They had a Star Wars project maybe they were more focused on. It just sucks that we as the fans got that. And so many people talk about it. Like, literally the whole fan base dropped off as season 8. Game of Thrones you've talked about all year round for years. Then all of a sudden it's over and it's like, that's it. Nobody talks about it anymore. Nobody talks about Game of Thrones. You can't really... The only Game of Thrones fans you can find is like on the Reddit, where we constantly talk about it. A lot of people constantly talk about season 8 and how bad it was. But I do want to rewatch it to remember that feeling I used to have. It just sucks that even on a rewatch, you know where it all leads to. And it's just not that good. So I'm just hoping that the book gives us more of a better conclusion. I am fine with some decisions that they made. I think it was just executed really, really poorly. But let's now get into number 2. So this is tough, but I have Breaking Bad at number 2. I go back and forth on 2 and 1 all the time. It literally just depends on the day and what I want to put at number 1, number 2. Out of all these shows, Breaking Bad is actually one I rewatched the most recently. I just finished up Breaking Bad maybe a couple months ago. On a rewatch. I first watched it when I was about 15 the whole way through, and then, you know, I'm like 22 now, about to hit 23, and I was like, you know what, I haven't watched it in a while, let me go back and rewatch it, and it just blew my mind all over again. It's so well done. It's probably the most well-made TV show out there. If someone, again, for the best TV shows of all time, Breaking Bad is number 1 for me. Just my number 1 is just more of a favorite, but Breaking Bad, I mean, the character of Walter White is so interesting. Probably the best character study you could do in a television show. He's a typical chemical high school teacher who's got nothing going for him. He gets cancer. He wants to do more with his life. He wants to provide for his family, make sure they're taken care of when he's gone. And the way it just spirals into this power control for him. He becomes so greedy. He loves what he does. He knows that he's good at it. And to see like that power-hungry man just be fueled by that, it's compelling to watch. And when he has Jesse at his side, and you know, he takes him underneath his wing, and Jesse arguably has maybe a better character development, better character growth than Walter White. His character is amazing. What he goes through, you know, what he becomes at the end, it's amazing. It's a perfectly written show. You know, there's some great directed moments. Ryan Johnson episodes like Ozymandias, The Fly, some of the best TV episodes, you know, ever made. And if anyone says Breaking Bad is number 1, I completely agree. It probably should be number 1 on this list. But there is one show that I do like more than Breaking Bad, and this is it. So at number 1, I do have The Sopranos. Now, maybe this is a basic number 1. I am half Italian, but I love the hell out of Sopranos. It is so freaking good. James Gandolfini plays Tony Soprano to a T. He's probably my favorite character in television, Tony Soprano. It's just so intriguing. You have everything that he does with the mob, right? Which is already intriguing on its own. I love gangster movies. I love movies like Goodfellas, Casino. Donnie Brasco, the list goes on. So everything with the mob, I love that, right? And the relationship with Paulie and Big Pussy and Vito and all the twists and turns that come with that story, I love. But there's so much more. He has his relationship with his kids, AJ and Meadow, great characters, love watching them. AJ's a little bit of a bitch, but he's okay. Then we have Tony Soprano's relationship with his therapist. That's one of the most compelling things on this show. His relationship with his wife, she gets a little bit crazy as well. And when they fight, it's like one of the best episodes. So I love that. The show that has so many themes. One of the big ones is betrayal. Betrayal is such a huge thing, and like who betrays who in this show is it's great. And there's so many memorable moments in here that I look back on and I rewatch on YouTube, and it just brings like a nice feel to it. I love the theme song. It's also most well known for its ending. I know a lot of people hate the ending. When I first saw it, I was shocked. I didn't hate it. I was just like, what? And then when I researched it and I sort of heard the director's perspective and how some episodes maybe hinted at this is what's going to happen, like what the ending actually means, then I thought it was genius. I was like, this is a genius ending. I go back and I rewatch it. I catch some new things every single time I watch it. And it's just, I love it. I think it's such a great ending. It is maybe not the best way to tie everything together, but it does leave this big shock factor. And when you have Journey's Don't Stop Believing in the background, it just creates this very memorable sort of feel to it. So yeah, that's my number one. I'm even thinking about it now, like maybe Breaking Bad should have been one. It's better acted, it's definitely the better show, Breaking Bad. It is. Like, I will 100% stand by that fact. Breaking Bad is the better show. There's just something that Sopranos that has me pulled into it. Like, it just like, I don't know what it is. I'm going to rewatch Sopranos too. Like I said, I just rewatched Breaking Bad, so maybe that's why I think it's better. But I'm going to rewatch Sopranos soon. And maybe that's when I'll definitely know, like, okay, Sopranos is my number one. I'm okay with that. That's pretty much it. So let me know down below what you guys think of my list. You guys enjoy it? Do you like it? I think I like my list. I think it has a good mix of a couple of things. You have like those mainstream shows at the bottom, like Cobra Kai, Mandalorian. Those are things I look forward to every single week when it's in season. It's something I really enjoy watching. But then, I think there are some great shows in here like Sopranos, Breaking Bad, Game of Thrones, The Wire, True Detective. Those are some actually well-made shows that I enjoy a lot. There's also a lot in here. Some honorable mentions that I didn't get to mention. I really enjoy Power, The Boys, Ozark, Prison Break, Euphoria. Those are some shows that have 5 out of 5 seasons, but I just didn't get to include in my list. There's also a ton of shows that I just never got around to, like Peaky Blinders, Mad Men, I sort of delved into, but I haven't really finished it. Sherlock, I'm almost done with that. And plenty of more. So comment down below, what is your favorite TV show of all time? If you guys want to give me your top 10 list as well, I'm always down to look at it. I'll comment, interact with you guys. So that's pretty much it. Please make sure you like this video. If you guys enjoyed it, please subscribe if you're new. I will see you on the next video. Have a great rest of the day.